After his white moonlight forced his concubine to miscarry, she threw down a bill of divorcement and moved into my house. She mocked me contemptuously. Your husband exists to love me. You can't compete. I poured her tea with a gentle demeanor. I never intended to compete for his affection. What I fought for was my family's honor, power in my own hands, and the future of my children. A pity she would never understand. The crown prince wanted to abandon me for a maidservant. Everyone thought he was mad, possessed. Even I thought so. He knelt outside the palace gates, begging the emperor to annul our engagement. His face was pale, his eyelashes wet with rain as he looked up at me. He grabbed the handle of the umbrella I was holding and pleaded, Miss Kui, I truly love Alara. Please, grant us this. Number if I granted him his wish. Who would grant me my reputation, my dignity, my family's honor? I pushed his hand away and took a step back. The rain I had been shielding him from fell upon his pale cheeks. In the biting wind, I looked down on him. Li Changning, a prince with a physical defect cannot be the heir. If you were not the crown prince, no one would force you to marry a Kui. No one would care who your future crown princess is. If you truly love her, then break a finger, renounce your claim to the throne, and live as a carefree prince with her. That would be a fine life. He said nothing. His lips pressed into a thin line. I laughed, my voice sharp and full of hatred. The empire and the beauty. Why should you have both? Why should I give up my rightful place as crown princess? Just because you ask. I, Serafina, am to marry the crown prince. Not you, Li Changning. You are free to renounce your title. Let one of your brothers take your place. That would suit us both. But you are unwilling to give up the empire, yet you still want the beauty. You are dreaming, Li Changning. He slumped his back. Once so straight, now bent. On my way back to my residence, the maidservant, Alara, blocked my path and jumped into my carriage. Don't you worry, she said with a grin. I'll be leaving with my future husband soon. As for Julian, you can have him, but whether you can win his heart is up to you. Though you probably can't. After all, Julian's entire existence is for the purpose of loving me. She didn't bow. She didn't know her place. She had no manners. Her words were inexplicably offensive. I was furious, and also disappointed. In her and in him. Such a frivolous, arrogant woman was not a worthy opponent, nor did she deserve my respect. Her future husband was General Kai. His family disapproved, but the emperor quickly decreed the marriage. To avoid any further complications, the general was immediately dispatched to guard the province of Qingzhou. Julian was despondent for a time, but whether he wanted it or not, I married him, securing my position as crown princess. On our wedding night, he drunkenly kicked open my door and roared at the attendant maids to leave. He threw the wine pot to the floor, his eyes red as he grabbed my neck. You drove her away, he growled. I broke his wrist with little effort. He fell to the floor, his eyes wide with disbelief. I calmly removed my heavy hairpins, clutched his wrist, a cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. I began to undress and walked towards him. His eyes widened in panic. What are you doing? I promised Alara. I would be faithful to her. I will not touch you. I smiled, untied his robes, and stepped on them with my foot. He gasped. Your Highness, I sighed, playing with his clothes. Your love for Miss Alara is not so steadfast, is it? His eyes reddened with rage, his fists clenched. Serafina, shut your mouth, he choked out. The next morning, as I was dressing in the next room, I heard him ask my maid, does a crown princess have to learn martial arts? Of course, my maid replied proudly. The crown princess is expected to attend the autumn and spring hunts. Now that you are married, you will attend with her. Julian was sullen. Fine, he muttered. Alara returned to the capital in the 9th year of our marriage. By then, Julian and I had a son and a daughter. The crown prince's palace was free of concubines. She arrived at the main gate in the middle of the night. When the butler announced her, Julian was sleeping soundly. His head nestled in my neck. Who? He murmured. The butler glanced at me nervously. It is Alara. Julian was instantly awake. He threw on a cloak and ran out, not even bothering to put on his shoes. My wet nurse patted my hand sympathetically. My lady, don't be sad. But I wasn't sad. 2 months ago, I had received a letter from my brother, informing me of her impending return. Shortly after marrying General Kai, she had started demanding to travel the world. He, being bound to his post, had refused. After several failed attempts, she had left without a word. On her travels, she had befriended many people, men and women, young and old, and had even shared rooms with them to save money. General Kai, furious, had sent men to bring her back, but she had only grown more defiant, even carousing with the soldiers in his camp. In the 6th year of their marriage, he had finally taken a concubine. This time she was returning to the capital, because, while he was away on a campaign, she had forced his pregnant concubine to drink an abortifacient, killing both mother and child. She was afraid and was now seeking refuge with Julian. The only reason her journey had been so smooth was because I had arranged it. I smiled at my wet nurse. We've finally been waiting for her. My lady, what are you talking about? With her here, His Highness will be bewitched again. You and he have been so happy these past few years. I shook my head, my gaze clear. This month, the Empress has mentioned making her niece a sidewife 3 times. For years, people have tried to place women in this palace, and Julian has refused them all. The Emperor and Empress are displeased with me, and the court whispers that I am jealous. He is not faithful to me. He is faithful to Alara. Rather than let the Empress place a noblewoman here to fight with me, it is better to let Alara do the fighting. I can just sit back and reap the benefits. Besides, he has been thinking of her all these years. All the maids he has brought into the palace have some resemblance to her. Rather than let this thorn remain in my heart, let her come back now, where I can see her. Let's see if he still cherishes the moonlight once it is in his hands. My gaze fell on my sleeping children in the next room. No one would ever threaten their future. When I came out, Alara was sobbing in Julian's arms. General Kai has betrayed me. Your Highness, you must seek justice for me. Julian saw me and released her. That General Kai is a real scoundrel, he said indignantly. I gave him a cool look, then smiled at her. Madam Kai, I have had the Wenfeng Pavilion prepared for you. A maid will show you the way. It is late now. You can return to the General's residence tomorrow. She glared at me. I am no longer Madam Kai. We are divorced. She turned to Julian, her voice choked with tears. Your Highness, I have nowhere to go. I ignored his pleading gaze and said sweetly, in that case, you may stay here. I turned to leave. Serafina, he called out and chased after me. Alara fell to the floor, crying his name, but he didn't stop. He blocked my path. Serafina, why are you ignoring me? I only see her as a sister now. Why did you put her in the Wenfeng Pavilion? I pushed his hand away. Julian, you can make her your sidewife. His expression turned icy. Serafina, are you mad? I looked at his bare feet. I walked past him. Julian, you should put on some shoes. The next morning, the Empress summoned me. Ever since my father's retirement last year, she had been cold to me before. She would subtly hint at making her niece a sidewife. Now she didn't even bother with pleasantries. Whenever I was summoned, it was either to kneel and copy sutras or to massage her legs. Usually, Julian would accompany me and shield me from his mother's abuse. But today, he just stood by and watched. Have you made up your mind? She asked. Zhou family's young lady is intelligent and virtuous. She is the perfect candidate for a sidewife, I said respectfully. The Empress nodded, satisfied. The Crown Prince's palace does not need just any woman. You are the Crown Princess. It is your right to deal with 1 or 2 maidservants. I agreed on the surface, but sneered inwardly. She wanted me to get rid of Alara to clear the path for her niece, Isabel in her dreams. As I was leaving, Julian rushed over, anxiously checking my face. Did my mother punish you again? I pushed his hand away. Number Serafina! He yelled, frustrated. I just looked at him. My expression blank. He sighed, his eyes red. You wouldn't speak to me this morning. I was going to come with you. The Empress's head maid appeared. Your Highness, the Empress has sent for your cousin. You must have missed her terribly. Julian frowned. Cousin. What cousin? Don't talk nonsense. The maid just giggled. Don't be shy in front of the crown princess. Everyone knows how close you and Isabel have been since you were children. She shot me a disdainful look. The walls were closing in, and even the Empress's maid felt bold enough to disrespect me. Julian was furious. I respect you as my mother's confidante, but do not push your luck. Your Highness, the maid said, her voice rising. What are you afraid of? The crown princess has already agreed to let Miss Isabel be your side wife. You can be with her openly now. Julian slapped her. I'll kill you, you old hag spouting nonsense. He turned to me, his eyes red, his voice trembling. You really arranged a concubine for me. I nodded and tried to comfort him. Don't worry. I know you love Alara. You can spend the night with her tonight. Once you've consummated the relationship, I can make her a side wife as well. Serafina? He roared, startling me. What is it? You are the crown prince. You must learn to control your emotions. He was trembling with rage, glaring at me. He stormed off to the barracks and didn't return for days. The Empress's maid, not daring to take her anger out on him, went to the Empress and slandered me. The Empress sent me books on wifely virtue and ordered me to copy them 100 times before I was allowed to leave the palace. While I was confined, Isabel, with the Empress's blessing, went to the barracks to see him, bringing him pastries. My wet nurse was worried. Neither of them is any good. That Isabel, a noble woman, shamelessly throwing herself at a man, and this one here, always trying to find out where he is. I just continued copying, nibbling on a pastry. She slapped my hand. My lady, this is no time to be so calm. But what can I do? You have to find a way to win back his heart, not just sit here and watch them steal him away. A man's heart is too fickle to be held, I said with a cold smile. But he clearly only has eyes for you right now. Why are you pushing him away? Does he? I am not so sure. Just then, we heard a splash from outside. Alara had fallen into the water. I stretched. The show is about to begin. When Julian returned, I was preparing medicine for her. It was late autumn, and the pond was icy. She had been in the water for a while and was now ill. He was about to reprimand me, but when he saw her pale, unconscious form, he couldn't hold back his anger. You can't tolerate her, can you? I've only been gone a few days, and you've already made your move. You drove her away, forced her into a bad marriage, and now that she has come to me for help, you do this. I told you. I only see her as a sister. Why don't you believe me? You pretend to be so gracious, offering to make her my side wife, but now you want her dead. You are a snake. He sat by her bed, his eyes full of disappointment, and took her hand. My wet nurse was stunned, but I had expected this. He had always held a grudge about her leaving, and now he had a reason to vent. I turned to leave, but my wet nurse stopped me, her voice full of indignation. Your Highness, you should ask the maids who were with her how she fell in. The crown princess was in the study, copying the books the Empress assigned. She had no time to harm your precious darling. Julian looked embarrassed. The entire household is under her control. Of course they would say that. Alara woke up that evening. Your Highness, is it you? She whispered. He took her in his arms as she sobbed. I thought I would never see you again. I regret leaving. But if I had stayed, you would have been punished by the Emperor. He comforted her, then asked how she had fallen in. The moss by the bank was slippery, she said, avoiding his gaze. He questioned the maids, but they all said she had gone to the pond on her own. He even had them tortured, but their story didn't change. I finally intervened. Julian, what are you trying to prove in your heart? That is what I am, isn't it? I said, my eyes red. If you already believe it, then why the interrogation? It was me. I turned to leave, and he grabbed my hand. Serafina, I was just upset. Back in my room. I looked at my fuming wet nurse with amusement. Why are you so angry? He has always been like this, but before, he acted as if he only wanted you. He was even angry when you agreed to let him take a side wife. I smiled. We've been married for 9 years. He has built a reputation for being a devoted husband. Now that he is taking on 2 side wives, he can't be seen to be doing it willingly. It has to look like they were forced upon him, to protect his good name. My wet nurse was dumbfounded again. You don't know him, but I grew up with him. I know him better than anyone. I am the daughter of a duke. The day after I was born, an imperial edict betrothed me to the crown prince. I was not raised to please him, but to be a future empress. My father had taught me that my husband was not Julian, but the title of crown prince. We were friends, partners, allies, and we might have become lovers, until he fell for Alara. I was proud. I was born to be a crown princess. I never imagined that I, the most noble of all the ladies in the capital, would have to spend my days clearing out my future husband's backyard. I admit, I was curious about this maidservant. What kind of woman could make the steadfast crown prince abandon his duty and defy the emperor for her? I couldn't do that, not for any man. But when I met her, I was disappointed, and in him. My brother, having received my letter, came to take me home the next day. The empress's maid came to collect the books I was supposed to have copied. Of course, I hadn't. I had been copying Sun Tzu's Art of War. My brother was furious. What has my sister done to deserve this? For years she has served the crown prince faithfully. Do you and your son not see what she has done for you? He dragged the maid to the emperor's study, demanding a divorce. The maid, terrified, begged for his forgiveness. Go back and tell your mistress that my father is ill and needs his daughter by his side. He roared, and took me away. Me children, hearing that I was at my family's home, came to stay with me as well. The crown prince's palace was left with only Julian and Alara. The empress was the one who was anxious now. Her niece had been trying to win over the prince for days with no success, and now he was dallying with a married commoner. Julian came to see me a few times, but seeing that my father really was ill, he left as soon as he was gone. My father would be up and playing with his granddaughter. The day after I left, Alara moved into my bed. Julian, pretending to be half asleep, called out my name. Serafina, is that you? It is me, your highness, she had replied coyly. While he was away at the barracks, she would come to my new residence every day, trying to provoke me. He exists to love me, she would sneer. You can't compete. I never intended to, I would reply calmly, pouring her tea. She told me that my world was just a story, created for her. She was the heroine, General Kai was the hero, and Julian was the devoted second male lead. And what about me? I asked. You, she had said with a contemptuous snort, are the evil side character who gets torn apart by 5 horses, the one who dies a horrible death. If General Kai was the hero, shouldn't he be doting on her? Why had he taken a concubine? Why was he now trying to hunt her down and kill her? Isabel, not to be outdone, also went to see Julian. You, a woman with no virtue, dare to compete with me for the position of side wife. She had sneered. You are so virtuous, Alara had retorted, that you've been bringing him pastries for weeks, and he hasn't even looked at you. She had then deliberately revealed the love bites on her neck, enraging Isabel. The 2 of them had gotten into a physical fight. When Julian returned, he found his palace in chaos. Both women were crying, demanding justice. Before he could say anything, the empress arrived to defend her niece. She not only made Isabel a sidewife but also had Alara beaten with 20 strokes of the cane. Julian had no choice but to come to me. How laughable. He didn't want to offend the Zhou family, so he wanted me to be his scapegoat. But I went anyway, and managed to secure Alara the position of a lesser consort. The empress was furious, and nearly threw a cup at my head. Julian held me, his voice full of guilt. Serafina, I am sorry, it is all my fault. Of course, it was his fault. But I just said, it is my duty. We are husband and wife, allies on the same boat. I will always put your interests first. I will never betray you. because to betray you is to betray myself." He was stunned. I got into my carriage and left, his eyes following me. The days that followed were a living hell for him. Alara would accuse Isabel of poisoning her. Isabel would accuse Alara of pushing her into a river. After 2 weeks of this, he couldn't take it anymore and fled to my family's home. He arrived to find my brother teaching my son swordsmanship, my daughter learning calligraphy with my sister-in-law, and me, sitting on the veranda, embroidering a winter cloak for him. We were a picture of domestic bliss. He just stood there, stunned. I smiled and waved him over. "You are just in time. My brother just hunted a mink. I made you a cloak. Come and try it on." My brother snorted. "There was only one, and she gave it to you. She is the only one who thinks of you. You certainly don't think of her." Julian paled, but he tried to defend himself. "No, that is not true. Serafina is my wife. My feelings for her are real." I shot my brother a look, and he fell silent. I believed him. We had been married for 9 years. After the initial month of bickering, we had grown closer. The turning point had been the spring hunt in our first year. He had lost to the 6th prince in a competition and had stormed off into the forest. I had found him in a hunter's pit, his leg caught in a trap. As I was helping him out, we were attacked by assassins. I had taken an arrow for him. He had cried, and I had quite enjoyed it. He had been so devoted to me after that. I hadn't done it out of love, but out of self-preservation. He was my husband, my shield. His success was my success. His fall would be my fall. For the next 9 years, we had worked together, consolidating his power. I had never worried about my position. He was not faithful, but his heart was soft. He knew what I had done for him and had always been generous to my family. But I had to pave the way for my children. When he became emperor, and my father retired, who would protect my son's claim to the throne? Isabel, the daughter of a powerful family, would be my greatest rival, and Alara still held a piece of his heart. I couldn't let these 2 threats follow me to the palace. Julian, seeking peace, started spending more and more time at my family's home. Alara's tantrums and threats of suicide no longer worked on him. In a fit of rage, she set fire to the crown prince's palace. The fire was extinguished, but his collection of rare books and a precious pill he had been planning to give the emperor for his birthday were destroyed. "Am I less important than these dead things?" she had screamed at him. "Shut up!" he had roared, on the verge of collapse. He came to me, his clothes stained with soot. I changed his clothes and poured him tea. "Don't worry," I said. "My father has given me his ceremonial sword to give to the emperor as a birthday gift. It is a far more meaningful gift than a pill." The sword represented my family's ultimate loyalty and the relinquishment of their power. "Serafina, thank you," he said, his voice choked. "You are always there for me in my darkest hours, and I have given you nothing." "We are husband and wife," I smiled. "There is no need for thanks." "I don't know why," he murmured. "But now that she is here, I no longer want her." I had known this day would come. He had met her when he was young and impressionable, a breath of fresh air in his stifling world, but now he was a grown man, had seen the world. The memory of her, which he had idealized for so long, could not compare to the reality. Of course, I had helped things along. The maids I had arranged for her had been subtly encouraging her to act out, to cause trouble. Then Isabel was summoned to the palace to attend to the ailing empress. She was pregnant. The empress was personally overseeing her care. On the night of the Lantern Festival, Alara was forbidden from attending the palace banquet. "A place like that is no place for you. You would only embarrass the crown princess," Julian had said, and had her confined to her rooms to copy texts. At the banquet, Isabel was sitting in the seat reserved for the crown princess. "I am with child and cannot move easily. The crown princess is always so generous she will understand," she had said with a provocative smile. But she had underestimated Julian. "Get up," he had said, his voice cold. "Do you think you are carrying a golden egg? This is not a place for you." Halfway through the banquet, he had suddenly collapsed. "Poison!" I had screamed. The doctor said he had little time left. The crown prince's palace was plunged into gloom. The Empress had a fortune teller predict the gender of Isabel's baby. A boy, the fortune teller had said, destined for the throne. The fortune teller's grandmother's surname, of course, was Ku. The Empress, though saddened by her son's impending death, now had a new hope. She focused all her attention on Isabel, but I would not let her have her wish. The doctors told Alara that she would never be able to conceive. Her maids found a pillow stuffed with musk in her room. The evidence pointed to Isabel. Isabel had been summoning Alara to the palace to teach her court etiquette, which was just an excuse to torment her. Alara, in her hatred, had started soaking her clothes in musk before each visit. Isabel, who had been suffering from a minor cold, had a miscarriage. The doctors found traces of musk in her system but couldn't trace the source. Meanwhile, a young doctor in the Imperial Hospital discovered a cure for the prince's poison. Only a blood transfusion from a close relative will work, he had told us. My children had knelt before their father, begging to be the one to save him. Julian had wept, then laughed, a crazed sound. I had made a small cut on my son's arm. This is not a wound, I had told him. It is a symbol of your power, of your bright future. The deeper the scar, the more Julian would remember this day. When Julian recovered, Isabel was sent to him. He was indifferent. From then on, neither she nor Alara posed a threat. On the day of his coronation, Julian named my son Crown Prince and my daughter the eldest princess. Isabel's title was never confirmed. The Empress Dowager's palace was left in disrepair, and her family's allies were demoted. She died of a long illness. I went to see her on her deathbed. She asked me why she, a noblewoman, had met with such a fate. I said nothing. She shouldn't have targeted my son. She was a threat that had to be eliminated. With Isabel gone, Alara was of no use. My brother was no longer holding back General Kai, who had her arrested. She went mad in prison, rambling about being the heroine of a story. How laughable! One's fate is one's own to decide.